What's up, guys? This is Joshua Stephen Ward, and you're listening to My OCD Live. Man, I am so thrilled to be kicking off this podcast during the holidays. So much of my life is rooted in many of the themes of the holidays. I am a December baby, so naturally the holidays bring great memories and reflection. My goal here is to make a warm, positive, authentic, entertaining podcast talking about self-development from a weirder perspective. I feel like self-development too often is one-dimensional, and I feel like as an artist, I'm a recording artist, and so I see the human condition in multiple different dimensions because I feel like art teaches you that. And so for me, I kind of want to bring to self-development this awareness that self-development is like the ultimate form of art. And I think too often self-help and self-development are kind of low dimensional, as I like to say. You know, life is multidimensional. Like, you're a multidimensional person. There's all these different moving parts, to your life. And too often with self-help, someone else is helping you. So it's not really teaching you to embrace self-knowledge and things that you know for yourself inside yourself and to develop comfort with yourself. I mean, it may to a certain degree, but to me, it's always left me wanting. It's my belief that middle children, I'm a middle child, and so I believe middle children, because they're not like the focal point, they're not the oldest or the youngest, they're in the middle, they're kind of in the midst of the family, but not a focal point of the family. It kind of drives them outward and inward. And so for me, that's kind of been my theory of the middle child, is that we're more introspective. And so for me, like that with the OCD and with the just weird brain I have, a podcast is very apropos for me. So man, I'm hoping to have some fun with this thing. I like to be deep, and I like to really just think to the bottom of things, but I also like to be silly. I like to just enjoy life because I really believe in the end that's what we're after. I mean, we want answers, but we don't want answers that are just like these deep answers that leave us like flabbergasted, and that's all that we have use of them for. We need to integrate our depth into our practical way of being a joyful person. So at any moment we need to be serious, we can be serious. And if we don't have to be serious, we can not have to always take ourselves so serious. Sometimes I've met people that you can tell there's overcompensation, and I'm guilty of that. Sometimes like I get brainy and I get too like into the details of things, man, and I begin to live life one-dimensionally. Like I'm trying to view everything through the lens of the intellect, when that's just one dimension. Sometimes you need to experience an orchestra, go to a movie, I don't know, like eat a candy bar, or fast, or read a good book. There's different ways that we can, I think, quicken ourselves to become alive and to feel more animated and to feel more in tune with, a more multidimensional person. I was diagnosed with OCD a few years after high school, and if there's anything that shows you the multidimensionality of life, it's having to deal with a neurosis that rationally you can't deal with. It shows that there's this irrational element, I think, in the human condition that we have to come to terms with. Dealing with OCD has been one of those things that for the longest time, I didn't want to confront it, honestly. I think a lot of times we have our idea of what our life should be, and we can be very stubborn in that, and it can cause us to not see what our life actually is. But strangely, OCD was a blessing in many ways in a disguise. I feel like we're quick to judge symptoms that are not the disease. A lot of times there's problems that need to be worked out, and a neurosis is just our psyche's way of manifesting the problem. And one of the major themes of this podcast is the ability for us to confront our weaknesses and essentially kind of make them our strengths by them being kind of the gateways into us really coming to terms with the human condition. OCD And the journey that led me through has really helped me become truly an artist that has something to say, because I'm a human being with something to say, primarily. I'm looking forward to really getting into how I began to solve the riddle of myself, and I still am. Don't get me wrong, but I know that I have a few of these things within me ironed out, that I just feel this extra gear that I never had in my life, until I really began to really do work on myself. It's one of the most enjoyable things that I've ever experienced, is being able to be a multi-dimensional person, a person that has depth to themselves, because you can plug into the world from a deeper place. Everything that you experience can be from a deeper place, and it's funny because your joy becomes something that's much more meaningful. It's something that you feel the truth in it, because you can feel when it's not true. And you can also feel when it's linked to other dimensions of who you are. You're just not different parts of a person. All the parts fit into a whole, and they all feed into a greater whole, that at any moment, one part has no greater value than another. Even if there's some imbalance there, everything feeds into each other. I think that's the microcosm of how we should see the world, how we should see each other. It's all based on how we have these inner dynamics of ourselves, and it's fascinating. I think it's a beautiful thing. Like I said, I think it's the greatest form of art, and I wish people had a little more creativity, I think, in explaining some of these things in life that sometimes might seem kind of boring on the surface, and yet it's everything. It's everything we want our lives to be, and everything our life is. That's my Christmas Morrissey impression. Let it snow. I think it'd be cool to make a Christmas album where you take the traditional Christmas melodies and Christmas carols, but you play them in counterpoint with each other, so they're all on top of each other, and you somehow make them work. And there's just so much you could do with that. That could be kind of cool. It could be, I don't know. Johann Sebastian Bach visits the North Pole. It might actually suck, because I'm not Johann Sebastian Bach. It'd be Lohan Sebastian Sock. The album art would be Santa Claus conducting Christmas. It'd be him conducting the reindeer, but maybe it's showing the whole world. And yeah, that's a terrible idea. Sometimes concepts are too complicated. Only recently have I begun to really appreciate my story and the things that I've gone through in my life. I was diagnosed with OCD a few years into college, and until then, I had no idea something like OCD even existed. I didn't know there was a name for this thing that I had experienced within myself for probably close to a decade of my life. And so, as you can imagine, for a decade of my life, I secretly had this feeling of defect in me. I thought I was crazy, and it was, how can you possibly even begin to talk to someone about this? And that's actually one of the motivations of making this podcast, is that, with my life and my art and with everything that I do, I want to reach out to people and connect with people and make them feel, not just feel, but think and know that they're not alone in this thing we call life. There is so much that our education doesn't prepare us for in life. I think that's one of the most fundamental things that we learn as a young adult. One of the first things we really grow to notice, that everyone's kind of just making it up. We're led to believe as kids that adults are these organized, serious people, It's we're like, man, someday I'm gonna be a serious person too, and you grow up and you're like, okay, this sucks, but I need to be a normal person. What does that mean, like, anyway? Like, what is a normal person? We all have to define normal for ourselves, and I mean, there is a sense of normalcy. If you want to be a serial killer, that's probably not normal. But there's like good normal and bad normal. There's like bad normal, as in people being content and kind of being asleep regarding certain things. And then there's good normal, where it's a healthy psyche. I think it's a problem when we view our happiness as something way out there in the future and not something that is a means to accomplishing what we want in our lives. Like, for us to gather ourselves together within ourselves, align ourselves, and kind of keep conscious our values and the things that we really want in life and what really matters in life. I feel like if we can keep sight of what really matters, it affects our decisions. It accepts what resources we use, whether it be physical resources or emotional resources. I mean, sometimes it's like, if you really want to be there for the people in your life, you need to be there emotionally. And so therefore, for you to be emotionally available to everything and anyone is to really rob that emotional availability to the people in your life that really matter. And so it's like making that conscious, kind of thinking to yourself, what can I do to cultivate a life where I'm habitually happy? I prefer the word joy, because joy has a deeper meaning to it. To me, happiness is kind of fleeting, but joy is a deeper meaning you have within yourself that actually makes it possible for you to really hold happiness. I think have more of a grip on it, because there's a deeper happiness. If you're so concerned about happiness, you're going to lose it as soon as you get it. But if you build the conditions that cultivate the ability to hold happiness, then that's how you can really live a life that you're truly satisfied with. There's a deeper purpose that aligns you and kind of keeps you together. And it's an experiential thing from within yourself that only you know. When the pieces of yourself come together and you feel more integrated, you feel more whole. And it's truly just a great joy. I really think that us cultivating this great joy of ours in the holidays, and really kind of using the holidays as a time to kind of really set ourselves ablaze in our own flame of truth and flame of positivity and vision for a new year, is something that it's something that I feel like is essential to my own life. And I feel like it's a time where we get to decide what normal is ahead of us in a new year and a new season of our lives. There's that great John Lennon quote about life is what happens to you when you make plans. That's really true, but we have to make plans anyway. And the things we're not prepared for in life, take them head on in the confidence of what we do know. It's almost like I wish there was a class we could all take that's everything I don't know 101. But that is essentially life itself, is everything I don't know 101. And the class ends the day that I die. And things got morbid very quickly. So here's more happy Christmas music. Threw together these holiday songs for you guys in my studio here. I'm gonna try to do all the music for this program, so hope you guys enjoy. It's not gonna be elite production, but it's gonna be good enough. Here's a little holiday vibe. You better not cry, you better not pout, 'cause I'll be telling you why. Santa Claus I am a baritone. I've had to face that reality in my music. For years, I wanted to be Paul McCartney. So I can remember practicing singing for like years, trying to sing Hey Jude. It's just not working out. There's a great overlap there that we all have to accept our own voice and not try to be someone else's voice. You have to be the expression of you, you know? So when I had discovered that there was something called obsessive compulsive disorder, I felt like this was just the surface of answers that I was starting to find. And so it kind of led me into cultivating a lifestyle of self-knowledge where I constantly wanted to learn more and more about myself and, all in the thirst to live a normal life, OCD for the longest time was something that at any moment I could get blindsided by. I started to realize that I needed to begin to learn how to live from a place of permanent depth within myself to counter any obsessive compulsive tendencies I found myself experiencing. This may be a little confusing to the listener. We're going to get more into these terms and concepts in future episodes and stuff when we get into a lot of psychology and spirituality and stuff. Self-knowledge has a very simple, elementary definition that I like to think about. It's just insight into yourself, insight into kind of your psychological and emotional makeup that tends to play itself out in your personality in ways that can be positive or negative. And I think having a sort of big picture mindset of yourself is a very important thing, because if you just focus on the bad, you'll be demoralized. If you just focus on the good, you'll be in denial of the areas that you need to pay attention to and to correct and to essentially make your good areas better. If parts of ourselves are broken off from each other, we don't know in what ways it's actually hindering our good areas. We may think that we're doing great, but we have to use our imagination of the possibilities of our life and how good life can actually be, but in ways that are maybe different than what we think. Part of the reason why I'm really, really passionate about talking about this stuff is that I've really begun to experience what it's like to accept some of these things. And I also know what it's like when you begin to realize what happens in your life when you begin to feel depressed and disconnected and what's actually happening. And I feel like I'm in tune now to what actually happens when you find yourself in a rut, when you find yourself kind of in dysfunction. And I've really realized the importance of staying in your joy, staying in the things that really give yourself personal significance. And so the holidays, I think, are a perfect time for us to plug back into this, into our own personal joy. That's really it's our life stream, But the more I understood myself and grew to understand myself, it seemed like it grew my capacity to truly bond with other people. And it was an amazing thing because I felt like this thing had destroyed my life, and like when you find that it's kind of your gateway to actually entering into life more deeply, I mean, it's really kind of, it screws with your head because it makes you realize that you've had things backwards in your life. The holidays can be a very weird time, especially in a year like this. It's been rough, and I just wanted to sincerely wish everyone a happy holiday season, and that I hope that we can tap into our own personal joy as we're trying to, map out what we want our lives to be like next year, even though we still have many obstacles to face. I think one of the best things we can do right now is plug into our own joy and make conscious things about life that we really love and work on personifying those things so that our life really is kind of this abstract piece of art.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glows. All of the other reindeer used to out my sleigh tonight, and all the reindeer loved him, and they shouted out with glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in this story.
You know, in my own life, when all else fails, I go back to unconditional love. You know, if you think about it, we exist unconditionally. There's nothing we did to earn our existence. And I think the spirit of Christmas is unconditional love. We are going to explore unconditional love a lot, and I have some really exciting things to share with you regarding that. Love is a great mystery, and this life is a great mystery. And man, we've just scratched the surface on a lot of things that I intend on exploring. So, man, y'all stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Like, follow us, and click a button somewhere. You can email the podcast at myocdlifepodcast@gmail.com.